All right, everybody, how's it going? It is Tuesday, January 7th, 2025, and of course, we just finished with the NFL regular season, so it's kind of natural we have to move on and make some wild card picks, right? It's the wild card round of the NFL playoffs. So, of course, we're done with the regular season. It was a pretty good regular season. I think I went 181 and 91, so out of 272 games, that's good for about 66%. You'll see that in a minute, but we had a pretty good season. Hopefully, that kind of carries over to this playoff round. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It was a fun regular season. We had some good picks. We had some pretty bad weeks, a lot of good weeks. Excuse me. However, we never really know how the playoffs are going to go. Any really given thing can happen. Anybody can win. These are all good teams. So it's always kind of like, it is what it is. But yeah, so let's get into the video in just a second. Make sure you leave a like. That helps the video out a ton. Make sure you leave a comment down below with your picks, how you did this regular season, like what was your overall record, how'd you do last week, what your picks are this week, all those fun stuff about your picks, whatever you want to comment, just make sure you leave it down below. And I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And then, of course, make sure you subscribe, as that also helps the channel out quite a bit. So thank you if you do all those things, and I appreciate you. Thanks for all the support this year. All right, let's get into our pick 'em first. Let's see. Oh, it takes a while. A lot of weeks. Yeah, we went 12-4 in the last 2 weeks. Good for a 181 and 91 finish. 66.5%. 181 divided by 272 is 0.665. So could be pretty much 67%, but we had a pretty good year, so stayed under 100. Hopefully we don't get a whole bunch wrong and go over 100 with the playoffs, but that's kind of a separate record. All right, Saturday football, we got the 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard game. We have the Los Angeles Chargers taking on the Houston Texans. Chargers are favored by 2.5 points with an over-under of 42.5. Chargers finished the regular season 11-6, and the Texans obviously won the AFC South at 10-7. But yeah, kind of just thinking about this game, thinking about the two teams that are playing. I feel like I like the Chargers a bit more in this than I like the Texans. As good as DeMeco Ryans has been, and as good as all of that is I just think the Chargers have slightly better coaching. So that's kind of like the first thing with Jim Harbaugh. And kind of like the way the Chargers are no longer kind of blowing games at the end. They seem to be able to play games all the way through. And that was sort of their issue the last few seasons, was this inability to finish games. The chargering, when the Chargers charger, they blow the game. In an inexplicable way, but this didn't really happen this year. So that's a testament to coaching. They seem to be a lot better coached, whereas Houston was kind of losing games to good teams for most of the year. Houston also has this weird issue on offense at times where they seem to struggle at generating long drives that result in touchdowns. They maybe get field goals out of those, but a lot of their longer drives just don't result in touchdowns. They score most of their TDs on turnovers on short fields, which is fine. That's what you need to do. But it seems to me like they get a lot of their points that way. And the Chargers aren't really like a turn the ball over a ton team. So you could probably start to see where like that could start to be an issue for Houston in this game. And Houston has like a weird number of injuries that are starting to pile up. The Chargers coming in this surprisingly healthy for the Chargers. And I don't know, they're just playing really good. Like their defense has been pretty good the last few weeks for the Chargers. Their offense has been getting better each week as they get more used to the Greg Roman system and the new Jim Harbaugh system. So again, it just feels like when you look at these things, when you look at the way they've both teams are coming into the playoffs, it's like, yeah, the Texans beat the Titans, but I don't really care about week 18. It was like before week 18, the Texans were struggling pretty hard. And the Chargers were kind of like galloping into the playoffs. You know what I mean? It felt a lot stronger of a finish. Chargers feel like they're a better roster, and they've always kind of been one of the better rosters in the league. It's just always been this issue of coaching that they finally have solved. So I think the Chargers take this game and beat Houston. I think it's good Houston got here. They won the division, but I don't necessarily know if they're a team that can win a playoff game yet. All right, this game was tough for me. I didn't know who to pick. I'll be honest with you, and I'm being for real. 8 o'clock Eastern Standard on Saturday. It'll be the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the Baltimore Ravens. Ravens are 9.5-point favorites. That won't happen with an with an over/under of 44.5. Steelers finished the regular season 10-7, and the Ravens finished 12-5, winning the AFC North. The reason this game was confusing, and I otherwise didn't just make this a blowout. Number one, the Ravens rarely beat the Steelers. I know they did the last game, so that's kind of like that could be a good or a bad thing. I'm not really sure how to conceive that. Lamar struggles versus Steelers usually. For the most part, he like, again, that last game kind of like changes the narrative a little bit. So that's why I'm comfortable picking. If the Steelers had beaten them, I'd be picking the Steelers. That, like, it's not even a question to me. Because again, the Steelers seem to play the Ravens really well. Tomlin seems to know how to play hardball. They just, you know what I mean? It seems to be like whatever happens, it seems like there's like this weird misfire where the Ravens aren't typically the Ravens against a team like the Steelers. And then you have this weird problem of the Ravens having weird playoff struggles with Lamar and Harbaugh, especially the last, 5-6 years. So again, you have this weird history of struggling versus Steelers. You have the weird history of struggling in the playoffs the last half decade. And those two things are kind of both here, right? You're in a playoff game, you're against the Steelers. So those two things almost made me go with the upset, I'll be honest. It's just that the Steelers haven't really been right since the injury to Pickens and TJ Watt. I mean, they're both back, but I don't know what happened. It seems like those two guys went out and the whole team just kind of bottomed out and there's nothing left. And that's really kind of more of a testament to what Detroit's doing, having 16 guys left on IR. And it's like, they're still just doing their thing. Whereas like the Steelers lost 2 players and the whole thing crapped out. And that's part of the reason is the Steelers are on a 4-game losing streak. They're playing bad football. If they had been a little bit better to end the season, like they're 11-6 or something, or they had won the division that they had to win 3 more games and you know what I mean? It's like, damn, dude, they're playing bad football. They're streaking in the wrong way against a team that's playing very good football lately, that's figured out their defense somewhat, has one of the best offenses, if not the best offense in the AFC. It's debatable between them and the Bills. And then, of course, you have like the Lions and Eagles. So it's kind of like they have a top 4 offense. They're one of the best teams in football. So especially now that their defense is shoring up. So I think those things are kind of pointing to the Ravens winning this game. Again, they've been playing better football than the Steelers lately. They beat them recently. They dominated them recently for the first time in what feels like ever. And again, they're just the defense feels sharper for the Ravens now. The offense is playing as good as it always does. And with the Steelers, nothing's going right. They're playing poor defense. They're playing poor offense. They're just not. They've seemingly collapsed. So that's why I'm going with the Ravens. Otherwise, I would have gone with an upset. That's still a game I think is going to be an upset. 1 o'clock Eastern, we have the Denver Broncos taking on the Buffalo Bills. Bills are 8.5-point favorites with an over/under of 47.5. The Bills finished 13-4, winning the AFC East, and the Broncos went 10-7 for a wild card. Pretty good season for the rookie-led Broncos with Bo Nix, and yeah. Unfortunately, I think that's going to be the thing that kind of dooms them in a playoff game. I know I'm going to contradict myself, but I feel like going up against a team as good as the Bills, with an offense as dangerous and as potent as the Bills, I believe it's number 1 in the NFL, or at least it's way up there. It's 1 or 2. Going up against a team like the Bills, just kind of going into Buffalo, I think there's these there are so many mitigating circumstances here where I feel like Bo Nix is going to be a little overwhelmed, and probably they're going to try to do too much and make a lot of mistakes. And again, that's not necessarily like a knock on Bo Nix or on the Broncos. It's just like when you're as far behind of it as, hold on, how do I phrase this? The gap in these two offenses feels almost too big to overcome, and the Broncos are going to have to do some wild shit to try to win this game and get an upset. I mean, if they do, and they're like hitting on like big plays and trick plays and kind of like just shockingly moving at will, they could get an upset. I just feel like due to the fact that there are these two weird gaps on offense, the Broncos are going to try to overcompensate a little bit too much, try to do a few too many risky things, throw maybe a pick or two too many. maybe like 3, and then maybe 1 gets taken back for a touchdown. I think that's going to be the difference in this game, because I do respect the fact that the Broncos play very good defense. I don't think like the Bills are just going to have their way with them. It's just that the Bills are going to be able to score, and that's going to put a weird amount of pressure on the Broncos that they're not really used to. You know what I mean? Like making mistake. Like if they make a mistake, it's going to be worth like 3 mistakes in this kind of a game. And I'm wondering if Bo Nix is ready for that kind of pressure and that kind of scale. I don't know. I just feel like even if both defenses break down, I don't think the Broncos with the rookie quarterback and a very young team are set to keep up. It'll be an interesting game. I feel like due to the skill gap on the teams and due to the experience gap on the teams, the Bills have quite an easy win here. Coaching, I'd give to the Broncos. I think Peyton's a better coach than McDermott. But I think the Bills are a better team. Unfortunate. I'd really like to see the Broncos get an upset. 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard, the Green Bay Packers take on the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are 4.5-point favorites with an over-under of 45.5. Packers finished the regular season. Oh, I've messed these up. The Packers finished 11-6 and the Eagles finished 14-3. I did that a little too quick. I apologize to the Eagles fans. I didn't mean to give you that mid-record. I don't even know how I messed that up. Oh well. All right. So for this game, I was thinking it's probably going to be pretty close because of the way the two teams played earlier in the season, right? I would imagine the Packers keep this game pretty close. However, I think a few things have kind of messed this up for Green Bay this year, in that the Jair Alexander injury, Christian Watson's out, and those are big. Like for a team that already had I'm not going to say the Packers struggle at receiver because they have decent receivers, but he's clearly their best receiver, probably their best offensive weapon. And other than Josh Jacobs, it's kind of between the two of those. Kraft's good, but again, your best receiver is out. For a receiving core that really needs him to kind of complement and bring up their other receivers, that's a big problem because they don't really have a clear another number 1 or number 2. It's kind of like Christian Watson plays and everybody else is better because they're a little bit more open. And with the Eagles defense this year, that's probably going to be a major issue, especially now that the Eagles young secondary has a bunch of experience. They're a lot more ready than they were in that first game. And with the Packers receiving core being a little bit worse off than it was when the season started, and the Eagles secondary being a lot better, I could see that being kind of a big plus for the Eagles, right? With Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell, those guys are playing very good football. And the Packers, I don't know if they have the receivers to match it now. And then I think all right, the Packers will probably be able to run the ball pretty well. However, I don't know if the Packers without Jair Alexander are quite capable of dealing with the Eagles' offensive attack, right? The Eagles have been passing the ball a lot better lately. So long as Jalen Hurts is good to go, they'll probably be able to throw it at will with AJ Brown. Again, without Jair, their secondary is kind of susceptible. And we've kind of seen that over the last couple weeks, right, with the Packers, specifically against the Vikings. Coaching, I don't, kind of a wash. So I'm gonna go with the Eagles in this game, in a very, very close game. But again, I think some of the injuries to the Packers have kind of derailed what could have been an upset, I think. But here's my upset pick this weekend. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Washington Commanders take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers are 3-point favorites with an over-under of 50.5. Washington went 12-5. The Buccaneers went 10-7 and won the NFC South, so they get to host a game here. Crazy. But yeah, the Commanders had a very, very good year. I find that Jaden Daniels, despite being a rookie, is very, very clutch. I've seen it multiple times throughout the year, 4 or 5 game-winning drives. Without those, they wouldn't be a playoff team. So again, I've seen Jaden Daniels put the team on his back and make them make the playoffs this year. I've watched it. So I know he's clutch. I know he probably won't shrivel up in this game. There's just something you can sort of tell about a guy who's very comfortable in leading game-winning drives, very good at them. And that's something that transfers over into the playoffs usually. And I'm going to give him that credit. I think he can go down to Tampa Bay, beat up a very susceptible Tampa Bay defense, score on them at will. Again, Commanders have a very good offense, a very tricky offense to deal with. And Tampa's defense the last few weeks has been very porous. Teams are scoring a lot on them, but teams aren't really able to keep up and score with Tampa Bay. That's been the issue with top 5 offense. Tampa's been a top 5 offense this year, right? Sorry, I ran out of breath. I'm talking too fast. But yeah, so again, Washington can keep up with Tampa's offense because of how porous and kind of meh Tampa's defense has been the last few weeks. I think the Commanders' offense or defense can make a stop or two on the Buccaneers, who again, they make some mistakes on offense. They turn the ball over. They tend to make weird decisions sometimes. They just do weird shit. I don't know how to describe it. So again, you can kind of see like, okay, I could see where Washington might make a few mistakes. Or but like Tampa Bay is going to make them right back, so that's probably going to be a wash. I could see the Tampa Bay scoring on a bunch of their possessions as I can with Tampa, but I feel like despite Tampa having playoff experience, despite Baker having playoff experience, I just have in my gut this feeling that Washington somehow pulls this off at the end of the game. It's just like, again, it's just who the quarterback is, how clutch he is. I feel like it's going to be a tight, close game, and no offense to Baker, but like Jaden Daniels seems to already be better than him in those moments. Maybe I'm just being in the moment, but I don't know. I feel like Daniels is already more clutch than Baker is. I can't think of Baker Mayfield game-winning drives. I know he has a couple, but like I've seen 3 or 4 from a rookie this year. That's a very clear sign of a very clutch quarterback, and that translates really well into the playoffs. And I think this is going to be a very, very close game. And that's why I'm going to go with the more clutch, what feels to be a more clutch team. All right, last game of the weekend. Damn, no Lions. Sucks to be a Vikings fan, I suppose. 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Minnesota Vikings taking on the Los Angeles Rams. The Vikings are 1.5 point favorites. I forgot to put the over-under on. Not a big deal. The Rams went 10-7, winning the NFC West and getting to host a 14-3 wild card team. Greatest wild card team of all time is Minnesota, and hopefully this is something where the NFL starts to consider like, hey, maybe we should like all the division winners make the playoffs, but that's not necessarily a home playoff game. I don't know. And then we reorder the 7 teams that way. But either way, I'm going to go with the Rams in this one. They already beat them once in the regular season, and I think it'll happen again, mainly because I feel like the Rams have the kind of offense that it's very Detroit-like. Those two offenses are very similar, and we've seen Detroit as the only team that's been able to score 30 points on the Vikings all year. Did it twice. I think the Rams will be able to score, get up into the high 20s, maybe even break the 30s, but I kind of doubt it. Again, they're a very like Detroit offense. They play very similar football. So again, expect that kind of similar Detroit look the Rams are going to run. Again, the Rams are also a copycat team in that they will do exactly what the Lions did game plan wise to try to win. So we'll see a similar defensive approach. We'll see a similar offensive approach from the Rams, a very similar special teams approach. Again, the Rams are a smart team. They look to teams that are good and figure out how teams have beaten them. That's how you beat them. That's typically how you do it. So again, expect the Rams to kind of mimic Detroit's offensive and defensive game plan. And really, a lot of this comes down to I don't think Sam Darnold is the guy, right? Like I've been telling everybody all year that as soon as it comes down to when it's going to matter the most, Sam Darnold, the clock is going to strike 12. Darnold-rella is going to turn back into the person who cleans the bathroom at the. I don't know the story of Cinderella. I don't know. The name dies. I should have just stopped at the name. But either way, until we see Big Sam Darnold take on a big clutch game like this and actually win and perform well, I'm not going to pick him to beat a team like the Rams at home. Super Bowl winning quarterback, Super Bowl winning head coach, very good football team. I just don't know if Darnold can rise to the occasion. He kind of choked really bad in what was basically a playoff game against Detroit. So again, I'm going to go with the Rams here. I don't trust Darnold at quarterback. It sucks for the Vikings that that's what they got to deal with. Maybe JJ's the guy. So I'm going to go Rams. That means the Lions will play the Commanders, which will be exciting. All right, well, let's see. I probably got a bunch of those picks wrong, for being honest, but we'll see. I'm not the best wild card round picker historically. However, I don't do too bad. Let me know what you think yet again down in the comment section. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video and all that and listened this far in. It does help us out. The comments, the likes, if you're new, subscribe and all that fun stuff. Again, I appreciate you so much for listening and hanging out this year and watching the videos, leaving likes, leaving comments. It's helped us out. We've grown the channel quite a bit this year again. And yeah, we're at some point going to hit 10,000 subscribers, which is pretty crazy. Good season. Sucks that it's already pretty much over. We only got like a month left, and then we'll be stuck watching baseball until the regular season or till the preseason starts off again. Oh well. Yep. See you guys later. Have a good rest of your day, night, morning, mid-afternoon, mid-evening. That time between 7 and 8 p.m. where it's kind of nighttime, but it's kind of still weirdly like late afternoon. I don't know. Whenever you listen, have a good one. And as always, it's go Lions, go Tigers, and of course, it's always go Patriots. I hope the Lions win the Super Bowl so that way my team can hire Ben Johnson, because that'd be cool. Getting to root for him as a Lions coach and a Patriots